Thanks for joining us. In the dev keynote, we just announced a comprehensive update to material design. I feel like I actually recognize a few people from the dev keynote, so hopefully you enjoyed that. We are going to talk about material theming, which is material design's new approach to customizing apps, powered by open source components, new tools, and new design guidance. We've created all of this work focused around two major goals. First, we wanted to do more to improve the designer-to-developer workflow. That was a big focus for us in this work. We want to make it faster and easier to build custom and improved experiences. And second, we wanted to make material much more adaptable and much more flexible so that more varieties of products and different styles of brand can come to material and take the benefits of it. This talk today is going to be focused on that aspect of customization, how you move from customizing in design to realizing that customization in code. So we'll cover both halves of that. We launched material design in 2014 as a way of creating a unified, cross-platform set of experiences. It was a design system not just for Google, not just for Android, but for everyone. And we wanted it to be able to span mobile, desktop, and other devices along the way. And since then, we've seen an incredible amount of beautiful and usable products produced by you, built on the foundations of material design. As an example, we have these winners of previous year's Material Design Awards. So many of these great experiences, from the New York Times to Airbnb to Blinkist, succeed because they're able to bring their brand to bear. They bring the strength of the identity they've already established into the forefront of the experience, without compromising any sense of predictability or introducing confusion for the user. With material theming, you can create a custom theme of material which is personalized for your product, expressing its brand through color, type, and shape. For today's talk, we're going to walk through 3 steps involved in using material theming. First, Rachel's going to tell us about the design system itself and how it's expanded to include material theming. We'll go into a lot more detail than we were able to cover in the keynote there. Then Rachel and I are going to walk you through a set of different examples of how you can create material themes for different types of apps and different types of brands. And Josh is going to show us how to realize all of this in code. So that's the plan for today.
OK, let's talk about the design system. So our updated material guidelines help you understand the foundations of good design and how to build an app with material. So materiality, if you guys remember, is still the fundamental metaphor driving the design system. These tactile surfaces still create a really predictable, usable environment for the user. Combined with things like a clear elevation model, defining surface relationships, the user intuitively understands how to use your products. Fundamental guidelines such as layout, interaction, motion, and so much more still provide the scaffolding to create these beautiful and functional products. And components are still the building blocks of great product experiences. We've expanded componentry over the years, as many of you might have noticed, introducing things like the bottom nav, and this year, the bottom app bar, which you probably saw on stage and we'll see in our presentation. We've also strengthened the usability of many of our componentry based on user research and the material community. For example, last year, we released a new text field component to increase usability and discoverability within this component. Starting today, component articles in the material guidelines will feature a theming section. These sections showcase how components can be easily customized from the baseline material theme. After understanding the customization possibilities within the guidelines, you can use a very powerful tool, the Material Theme Editor, to execute. What this tool does is it cascades customization decisions throughout your design components, creating a branded symbol library within Sketch. Let's talk about a few of these customizations that really make your product come alive. In 2014, we launched a beautiful color palette and a system to think about how to apply color to your UI. But what if your brand color wasn't in this palette? How could you use the system? Today, we're introducing guidelines and tools bringing any color into the material design system. A new tool in the guidelines creates beautiful material palettes generated from any color and gives you additional options for harmonious colors to add to your palettes. You can also generate palettes in the material theme editor. The theme editor, though, takes this a step further, applying colors to the appropriate componentry across your symbol library. It also helps check for accessibility, using the full palette to provide alternative colors that meet accessibility standards. So let's talk about type. We introduced the same customization possibilities with typography. In 2014, we released a comprehensive Roboto type scale that mapped to componentry. Today, with the Material Theme Editor, we can create beautiful type scales for any typeface, not just Roboto. These scales are optically corrected to work in material components, mapping again across your entire symbol library. And for shape, today with the launch of the Theme Editor, we're introducing the ability to systematically customize shape so that rounder corners or a custom cut detail on some of your surfaces immediately apply across all of the surfaces within your design. And lastly, iconography. We've been building our comprehensive set of icons since 2014, resulting in a collection of over 1,000 icons. Today, we're announcing 4 additional sets of icons, expanding the visual range of the original set. Available on Material.io and in the theme editor, these sets allow for even more visual expression in even the smallest details of your product experience. And as you all know, design can only go so far if you can't realize it in code. So today we're launching Gallery, a collaborative tool, as Rich mentioned in the talk, that helps bridge this designer-developer workflow. Components exported using the theme editor can use the inspect feature in Gallery, allowing for this easy transfer of design decisions into our open source components for iOS, Android, web, and Flutter. So let's go deeper with theming. We want to show you how efficient customization can actually be. So just so you know, we test material design by creating product studies that showcase our thinking, making sure our system works for a wide variety of experiences and products and brands. You'll see these studies used throughout our updated guidelines. Today, we're going to talk about 3 of them. Crane, a travel app, here shown on desktop. Reply, an email app. And Shrine, a retail app shown on tablet. This visual shows how they would originally appear pre-material theming. When we pull away the content, you can see how similar the structure and the visual design of these screens are. Navigation on the top, relying on color blocks to really create a differentiation from each other. But these experiences and brands are different, and that's not coming out in the user experience. Let's use material theming to better express these variants. I'm going to start with an app called Crane. Crane is a travel app that helps users book and find travel, lodging, restaurant options. It's both functional, using components such as text fields, lists, selection controls to book a trip, and really editorial, using beautiful image lists to showcase and browse content. Crane's brand is refined but not unfriendly. The brand needs to give the user confidence that they can trust Crane to book travel and accept payment, but also lively enough for vacation planning to still feel exciting. A lot of that personality starts with the color decisions. Crane's primary color is purple. It uses variants of this color to distinguish different UI elements and create contrast. And Crane's secondary color is a bright red. This red is used for important information and selection within this experience. The primary purple is the main color of the buttons, and the secondary color is really used, as I said before, for selection controls and really important typographic elements and prices. But if we use red for type and selection controls, what about error states? It's very observant, if you notice that. Material defines a default color red, but you can define your own. So instead of red, Crane uses orange as its error color. So this way, the error color calls attention, but isn't associated with the brand identity. Speaking of text fields, Crane uses 2 styles that you'll see here. This one is the lighter weight outline text field that's used for longer scrolling forms. This other text field is used for inputting search and user preferences. You can combine the 2 styles. They have a custom shape with rounded corners and use the brand colors, the iconography, and the typography as defined by Crane. And lastly, we mentioned Crane's emphasis on editorial content. Crane uses a masonry-style grid list where photos maintain their aspect ratio so they show as much content as possible. The image list has been customized to display text labels with each item. Custom padding has been added above and below the item. OK, Josh, your designer has given you a beautiful design. Can you make it?
Well, I'll see what I can do. So as a developer, I love a good challenge. And I love making beautiful designs come to life and really putting them in the hands of our users. Our engineering team has been hard at work creating building blocks for great design, complete with the kind of flexibility necessary to construct any app or any style. We've primarily done this through Material Components, or MDC, our open source libraries for UI development, available for Android, iOS, the web, and Flutter. For this particular example, I'm going to walk you through how we get started building this with MDC Web. Using Material Components, I can quickly drop in the basic structure of an app: a top app bar, tabs, a few text fields, and an image list. This is what it looks like before I begin customizing anything. These baseline styles will give your users a great user experience right out of the box. But today, we're talking about customizing Material for your brand's specific needs. I'm going to show you how easy that is. First, color. Rachel told you about our new color system with tools and guidelines to help create a dynamic color palette using your brand colors. From those tools, you can easily pull in the colors necessary into MDC Web by defining these Sass variables. These variables are used throughout the MDC components and can be used anywhere within your app to make it easy to have a semantic meaning and understanding to how color is applied. While all MDC components will automatically pick up and adapt those colors we just defined, you can also customize things whenever necessary. Tabs default to colors that expect they're on your default background color. However, in this app, the tabs are part of that top app bar, which uses the primary color as your background. The default black that tabs use is too dark to put on top of that primary color. So here, we show how we override the ink color on tabs with our on-primary color. That's a color chosen to specifically be high enough contrast to put directly on top of a primary color. And this is what that looks like. So our colors are clearly applied across the top app bar, the tabs, and the text fields. Now let's look at the image list. MDC gives us a simple standard grid very easily. But for this product, we wanted that less regular masonry grid. This is how the standard grid was defined. Very easy, very simple. And here's the only changes necessary to turn it into a masonry column layout. So just a little bit, and you get that different layout that looks like this. And that's it. That's about 10 to 15 lines of code that went from our baseline look to this, and then a few more tweaks, and we'll have the final design. All right, what else can we build?
Thank you, Josh. All right, let's do another. Let's go forward to our email app, Reply. Reply's promise to users isn't especially complex. It's an email app. It wants to be clearly organized. It wants to have legible typography. It wants to have straightforward navigation. But we still have customization opportunities within that. Reply's brand is focused on friendliness. It's competence and maybe even a hint of quirkiness. On mobile, Reply uses the bottom app bar. The most obvious feature that you see here is that floating action button, that golden fab in the center. And it's even been kind of nested into the app bar itself with that nice little cut. Doing that increases its prominence. This is a key action, as our fabs often are, and this makes it a very obvious target. Navigation is also supported in the app bar, but it's a little less obvious, less prominent. It uses the Reply logo to access a traditional navigation panel. You might also have noticed something interesting going on with the icons themselves. They're using one of those new sets that Rachel described earlier, in this case, the two-tone version. Now, these icons are still immediately recognizable. We haven't changed kind of the way that we draw the symbol. The user will still recognize it from other experiences across the system, but we have stylized it. The entry chips for the addressees in the middle of the screen here, those also use custom color and typography. And we've also adjusted some of the layout elements. So instead of the avatar being inset within the chip, as it would be for the baseline presentation, we've customized it to be a bit larger, completing the rounded shape and giving you a slightly better chance of actually being able to tell who that is. A key component of Reply's style is the way it employs typographic scale. It needs to cover a lot of different use cases or tasks related to this very text-heavy application. So we've done customization here as well. We've taken the default Roboto and replaced it with Work Sans. We've updated the weights using the guidance that comes out of the material theme editor to optimize how we want to size them as well. With the bold headlines and less emphasized captions and body text, we increased the scannability of the content. And you can see that really clearly in a view like the messaging list here. There's a clean visual hierarchy. The user's eye knows how to jump kind of very rhythmically down the page to catch the different titles that are there. On the cards themselves, we've customized them to use sharp corners. And we've decreased the padding between the cards so that there's just more space to get content in. Now, even though there's no indication of elevation on the cards, you can still see a clear separation between them. You're getting a little bit of that background color peeking through between the cards, cueing that these are different surfaces, and that the user can reasonably expect they could perform swipe gestures on it, in this case, to either star or delete one of those messages. OK, that's a lot of customization. Can Josh build it?
All right. So I already showed you MDC Web. So for Reply, I'm going to bring you through MDC Android. One of the beauties of Material Components is that no matter what platform you're building for, you have a consistent set of components available. The same patterns, features, themability, but still very much in line with the platform-specific paradigms that your users are going to expect. So here on Android, we have the same kind of material theming for color. We define our theme, inheriting from the Material Components theme, and define our brand colors. This defines all the colors that will flow through the app, styling both the MDC Android components, but also lower-level UI elements provided by the Android framework. Now, for Reply, we really need to exercise our ability to customize typography and use the material type scales. To do that on Android, I want to tell you about Android downloadable fonts, and how with Google Fonts, you have a great set of fonts readily available to use. Work Sans is the typeface for Reply, and this is all you need to have that font downloaded on the fly whenever necessary for your app. Once we have the font, we have to apply our material type scales that our tooling will help you determine. Here, we redefine the headline 1 text appearance to use Work Sans with a light text style. We can redefine the entire type scale and link it up to our theme so that all of the text appearances update across your app. So with those changes to our theme, we see Reply's colors and typography permeate through the components and the various views of the app. But now let's look at a couple specific components. First, chips. Chips can be tremendously versatile and useful, but also quite complicated to implement well and in a consistent way. So we've done that for you. Pull in the MDC Android chips like this. Very simple. Drop it in your layout. Getting all the nuanced behavior of a chip just right, and completely pulling in your theme colors and type definitions. And of course, the new bottom app bar with that special little place for the floating action button. This is one of the really nice patterns that might seem like it'd take forever to figure out how to build. It did take a while, but we got that for you too. Here's the bottom app bar and floating action button where they would go in a coordinator layout, automatically pulling in your theme colors and type. It's also worth pointing out here we're using our new Material two-tone icons. These icons are available on material.io and are ready to drop into any Android project. So that's Reply. What else?
OK. We'll do just one more. You're getting the hang of it by now, but I want to show off a couple of other aspects of the system. The final app that we're going to look at is called Shrine. So Shrine is it's a retail app. It's an online marketplace that doesn't just sell goods from one label. It shows them from a variety of fashion providers and promoted labels. So because of this, a lot of the emphasis in the design of Shrine is on imagery. The tonal color palette that we use has fairly minimal contrast in this case. Okay. Those are really key choices, because think about what a user coming to this experience is looking for. They want to engage with the content. They want to be excited by the different wares that you have up for sale and keep their attention focused there. But you also need to be able to convert them. They need to be able to find that add to cart button and hit it when it's time for them to make the purchase. So you're balancing kind of content browsing and also this more specific task execution. So with that in mind, Shrine's brand actually recedes a little bit. Content and key actions go forward. Where Shrine does assert its brand identity very strongly is in the way that it uses shape. We use sharp cuts on surfaces like the buttons and on larger sheets of material. And those are all tied back to that diamond logo, the product logo of Shrine itself. Those aren't just aesthetic choices. When we do those surface cuts on the corner, we're also communicating how the different material surfaces are arranged in Z space and how the user might be able to interact with them in different ways. So from front to back, you have the backdrop back layer, which is where we have a custom navigation menu for Shrine. In the middle, we have the backdrop front layer, which is where the bulk of the content the user is actually going to engage with is going to reside. And then the shopping cart sheet, which is actually tucked almost entirely off screen, is foremost, and it just gets out of the view when it's not needed. On tablet and desktop, Shrine's primary navigation is through tabs. And in keeping with the emphasis on storytelling through shape, we're using a highlight indicator that takes a custom shape and draws it behind the active label. OK, last time, Josh, once more.
OK, so this time, let's talk about iOS. Again, I'm going to show you how colors are defined very simply and easily get applied throughout all of our components. For each platform, you define these colors and then trust that we've applied them in the appropriate places across all the UI elements. But for Shrine, I really want to focus on these shape customizations. This is one of the areas I'm really excited about. It's pretty tricky to implement these things, but we aim at making adjusting shape and applying it to your components as simple as theming any other aspect of your design. Here for Shrine, we use this cut on the corners of the buttons and on the top left corner of that larger surface. On iOS, you can use our shape generators and corner APIs to style the buttons. Here you see an 8-pixel cut applied to every corner of the button. And here you see a bigger 32-pixel cut, but only applied to that top left corner of the card. This takes care of a ton of complexity and making touch targets behave correctly, ripples and shadows appear in the right place. And with all of this, you get a very easy, interesting way to apply custom shapes across everything you do. Now, shape is still a work in progress. I showed it to you here applied to buttons and cards, but it'll be coming to many more of our components soon. With that, hopefully I've gotten you excited about material components, the benefits they provide, and the ease in which they enable these very sophisticated customizations.
OK, so if we revisit these 3 apps again, with all the customizations we just deployed, they feel much more distinct. They feel much more like themselves, which is the goal. We haven't changed any of the essential structuring of the information. It's all the same content, all the same navigation, but we've added a lot more of the brand's character in through this work. And everything that you see is still entirely consistent with the fundamental principles of material design. We're not introducing anything that's going to be unfamiliar to the user. They're still going to be able to work through these systems. Crane is still making use of bold color, but it's flexible enough to be able to tell a selection state from an error state, as we saw. Reply is using a different style of icons, but they're still recognizable and familiar to the user. And Shrine is still giving the user clearly separated surfaces so they know where they can touch and how the surfaces might respond. That's the power of material theming. That's the goal we've been chasing over these last couple of years. Starting from the foundation of material itself, that solid material foundation of good design, and customizing the experience through key attributes which have wide-ranging impact throughout the experience. Today, we've just kind of concentrated on 3 of our example apps. There are actually 4 more at material.io. So you can see another range of different product styles and different customization options to get the sense of the full capabilities of material theming. And while you're there, you can also see how other real brands are using material theming. So you can read about how we've applied the material theme, the Google material theme specifically, to products like Gmail, News, Pay, and Home. And over the last year, we've partnered with the stellar design teams from Genius, Lyft, NPR, Pocket Casts, and Zappos to help them bring material design into their products. You can see the studies of how these partners are thinking about material on material.io as well. This is just the start. We will be adding more new components and new material theming options, new guidance, and new examples on a regular basis. We're very excited to see what you do with material design. Thank you for joining us today. And if you'd like to learn a little bit more, we have sessions coming up, about 4 or 5 different sessions that cover different aspects of material throughout the remaining couple of days of I/O. There's a session later today on stage 4 that goes deep on how you use material to design and build across platforms. I've seen that session. It's a very good session. You will probably enjoy it as well. And we also have, just outside this stage, is the Design and Accessibility Dome. We will be there throughout all of I/O. Come, I'm sure you'll have questions. We are happy to answer them there at the Dome. Meet designers from the material team. You can see demos of Material Gallery, Material Theme Editor. You can also get a design review for your app. So you can get a 15-minute slot to talk through what questions you might have about material or design in general. And we also are going to be doing a series of short 10-ish minute talks, kind of small form, on different topics throughout the next couple of days of I/O. So once again, thank you, and have a good rest of I/O.